Intro. I love crazy challenges, insane stunts, and stories that make you go like, no way. And history is full of moments that feel made up but are 100% real. Today we're diving into 22 of the wildest, most unbelievable true stories from across time that sound like movie plots but actually happened. I promise you'll laugh, gasp, and maybe question reality by the end. These aren't summaries. We're unpacking each moment so you can picture it. Cities burning themselves to stop a plague. Kings ordering wars on the ocean. Astronauts sneaking sandwiches into space. A king buried under a parking lot. I've handpicked tales that are bite-sized but packed with detail, so you get the weirdness and the why behind it. Stick around because some of these will blow your mind, and a few are perfect for trivia night. If you love history told like an epic countdown, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. Chapter 1. In 1720 Marseille, the bubonic plague showed up. People reacted in a way that seems straight out of a horror film. Officials and terrified citizens set entire neighborhoods on fire, building massive pyres to incinerate anything that might carry the disease. They watched buildings go up in flames, sacrificed entire blocks, and hoped the smoke would be their salvation. It sounds brutal, and it was. But it worked to a degree. The burning slowed the spread, though the cost was half the city. Imagine choosing between wiping out neighborhoods or letting the plague rip through everyone. That was their decision in real time. On the ground, the streets smelled of ash and fear, and survivors had to rebuild their lives and their houses from smoldering ruins. This extreme measure shows how desperate people were and how drastic actions can sometimes stop something far worse. Chapter 2. In the 1500s, a mercenary named Peter Skram fought like no one else. He literally wore a bear skin into battle as armor. It wasn't a plush costume. It was a full bear pelt fitted with spikes, reinforced metal bits to make it intimidating and functional. When he charged, opponents saw a towering furry demon with iron teeth and panicked. The psychological effect was the real weapon. Enemies broke and fled before the first clash. Skram used fear as armor. It paid off in wins. It paid off in survival. He deliberately crafted a persona you couldn't unsee and turned myth into battlefield advantage. This is a perfect example of psychological warfare long before the term existed. Make your enemy think they're fighting a monster, and you've already won half the battle. Sometimes history's weirdest tactics are the cleverest. Chapter 3. Victor Lustig was a pro-con artist with confidence so sharp he could sell Paris's icon twice. He set up shop pretending to be a government official, convinced scrap dealers the Eiffel Tower was being dismantled for repairs and could be bought. People believed him, handed over huge sums, and he ran. Lustig didn't stop at one sale. He repeated the scam, steering away before anyone realized they'd been conned. He preyed on greed and official-sounding paperwork to make the impossible seem plausible. It's wild to think someone talked their way out with the proceeds of a national landmark. The lesson here is about charm and audacity. If you sound official enough and move fast, people will fill in the blanks. Lustig's scams read like a masterclass in confidence and timing. William Howard Taft was the biggest U.S. president in history, and his size became an accidental legend thanks to a bathtub. Stories say he once got stuck in a White House tub and needed help getting out. The tale grew until the White House installed a massive bathtub that could fit 4 people. Whether every detail is exactly true, the core stuck-in-the-tub image captured the public imagination. Taft's size became fodder for jokes and cartoons, but it also humanized a president people otherwise saw as distant. The image stuck, literally, in history and pop culture. It's a reminder that small, funny moments can shape a leader's public persona more than big policies sometimes. Even presidents get reduced to viral images centuries later. In 872, a rotted fish washed ashore. It became the center of a bizarre religious spectacle. Pope John VIII reportedly ordered a full funeral for the fish, built a shrine, and declared reverence for this strange object of the sea. People saw it as a miracle, or at least a sign. The church treated it with solemnity. The story sounds absurd, but it reflects medieval belief systems where omens and signs were part of public life. The fish funeral is an extreme example of assigning meaning to the weird. When we hear this now, we laugh, but to them, it was serious. It shows how traditions and authority can turn oddities into ritual. The odd becomes sacred when leaders say so. On Gemini 3, astronaut John Young snuck a corned beef sandwich onto the capsule and floated it around in zero gravity. Crumbs spread everywhere, a nightmare for delicate equipment. And NASA was furious about the contamination risk and the breach of protocol. But Young thought it was hilarious and wanted to prank his crewmate. The image of floating sandwich crumbs in a spacecraft is both funny and terrifying. It highlights how astronauts are human and how rules sometimes go out the airlock for a laugh. NASA tightened rules after that incident, and they never underestimated food crumbs again. This story is the perfect mix of human mischief and high-stakes environments, proving that even in space, people still pull pranks and push limits for a good laugh. A Dutch village carried on hostilities long after the official war had ended because they forgot to sign the treaty that ended it. For centuries, they treated the conflict as ongoing, bureaucratic inertia, ensuring the war lived on in paperwork. It wasn't until 1986 that officials realized the oversight and formally ended hostilities. A war continuing on the books because of a missing signature is hilarious and tragic. It shows the machinery of state and simple human error creating absurd outcomes. Imagine a place technically at war for centuries, yet never fighting a day. History meets bureaucracy head-on, and bureaucracy loses, comically. Reminder: file your forms, check your treaties, or your war might outlast you. In 1669, after Mount Etna destroyed homes and fields, local villagers held a mock trial and sentenced the volcano to damnation. They dressed up judges, read out charges, tried to bring legal order to an unstoppable natural force. It was symbolic theater, a desperate attempt to reclaim agency. The procession, rituals, declared sentence didn't change lava's path, but it comforted people and gave them a script for grief. Holding a trial for a volcano shows how communities use ritual and law to cope with chaos. It's satire, devotion, survival, all rolled into one elaborate performance. That moment is history's reminder. When reality is unmanageable, humans invent stories to make sense of it. A courtroom might not stop lava, but it can bind a community back together. Well, at least emotionally. Ludwig II fancied himself beyond ordinary limits and ordered a crystal throne to reflect his divine status. The throne was fragile and elegant, designed to embody otherworldly power, but it cracked from his body heat within months. The spectacle turned majestic fantasy into humiliating literal shattering. He lived in a dream of marble, mirrors, and mythic thrones, until those illusions literally broke. The throne's failure became a metaphor for the futility of trying to fashion immortality out of glass. This story blends eccentric monarchy, fragile ambition, and poetic irony, create a symbol of eternity, and watch it fail under mundane human conditions, like body heat and time, which is oddly poignant. Chapter 10. Jean-Joseph Merlin invented early roller skates and debuted them at a high society party while playing his violin. He had no brakes and no clue how to stop, smashed into a large mirror, and the dramatic entrance ended with embarrassment and broken glass. It was the birth of roller skating as spectacle and hazard. Merlin's invention was brilliant but untested in real-world social settings, and the disaster became legend. People laughed, people gasped, and the idea stuck, literally, in cultural memory. The image of a fiddling skater flying into a mirror is hard to forget. That early crash shows how innovation often looks ridiculous at first and how memorable failures can be the seeds of future success. Roller skates went from party trick to global pastime. Chapter 11. The Anglo-Zanzibar War in 1896 was perhaps the shortest war ever. 38 minutes of chaos, from 9:02 to 9:40 a.m. Britain's naval guns decimated the opposition quickly, leaving hundreds dead or wounded, while Britain walked away with virtually no losses. One British sailor reportedly suffered a twisted ankle. That's the military's casualty report. Chapter 12. Marie Antoinette and the 18th century court turned to unusual remedies for ailments, including a concoction called Palais milk, made of ground wall plaster and rose water to treat headaches. The idea of aristocrats sipping plaster seems absurd now, but medical practice then mixed superstition and chemistry in strange ways. It didn't cure anything and likely made things worse. This episode points to how wealthy people chased treatments that promised relief but were untested and odd. The royal court's reliance on bizarre tonics shows the gulf between image and reality. Even queens endured quack cures. Public fascination with these rituals fed rumors and scandal. In retrospect, it's comedic and tragic, a reminder that status didn't grant immunity from human desperation to feel better, even if it meant drinking wall scrapings. Chapter 13. In 1898, a French village declared an enormous oak a citizen. They issued it a birth certificate. They granted a tax exemption to stop it being felled. The tree became a legal person with rights and social recognition. The citizenship was a form of protest and a form of celebration. It showed creative conservation before modern environmental law. Villagers used bureaucracy to shield the oak, signing papers and official forms, turning affection into paperwork. The oak's citizenship remained a cultural statement that nature can have a civic place. People will invent legal routes to save what they love. Chapter 14. In 1783, two nobles dueled over a theater seat, lined up for honor, and somehow missed in a way that made them both break down crying. The rage dissolved into mutual laughter and a spontaneous hug, and they later channeled that bizarre reconciliation into opening a wine bar together. What began as blood feud ended in business partnership. The moment is pure human theater. Pride, absurdity, reconciliation all on a stage. It shows how close we are to both violence and friendship in the same breath. Instead of a grave, they built a tavern serving the public what survived of their honor. This tale proves social rituals can flip on a dime, and enemies can become partners when vanity subsides. It's one of those stories that, restores a little faith in people's odd capacity to forgive. Chapter 16. Longyearbyen, Norway, made headlines by essentially banning dying in town because permafrost preserves bodies, preventing normal decomposition and risking disease. Terminally ill residents must leave the town to spend their final days elsewhere. It's an extreme public health policy shaped by Arctic conditions and practicality. The ban sounds draconian and darkly humorous, but it's grounded in science and logistics. Permafrost keeps bodies intact, which complicates burial and raises sanitation concerns. The town's solution is stark, but functional. It reflects how environment shapes law in ways you'd never imagine. This rule is a striking example of how human communities adapt bureaucratically to place-based realities. In Longyearbyen, even the most private human moment is regulated by climate. Chapter 17. Grace O'Malley commanded a fleet of over 100 ships and refused to bow to convention even when meeting Queen Elizabeth VI. She sailed with sovereignty, negotiated on her own terms, and famously refused to speak English or bow before the English monarch. Her charisma and her ferocity earned her a pension and a place in history. O'Malley's life reframes piracy as political power rather than simple crime. She ran a maritime kingdom and protected her clan's interests. Her negotiation with Elizabeth shows her savvy and the respect she commanded, even from powerful rulers. She was both feared and treated as a diplomatic equal. Grace's story complicates our romantic images of pirates and queens. She was a leader who navigated gender, violence, diplomacy with daring style. Chapter 18. In 1961, Leonid Rogozov was alone at a remote Antarctic station when appendicitis struck, and he performed his own appendectomy using mirrors and local anesthetic. He had to operate with a nervous team,